What's up everybody, Kai here, and welcome back to Tutorial Tuesday. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the last episode and you're excited to see this episode. As you can see right now, I am currently on the Tutorial Tuesday YouTube page, and currently it has no banner and has no avatar because we will be working on those in the series. Really, I'm not looking for the Tutorial Tuesday to get any subscribers. You're free to subscribe to it if you want. It's Tutorials on Tuesday. If all you want to watch is the tutorials, it'd be a great way to make sure that you get to see them. The only thing is I might have to split some of them into two parts because since it is a new channel, there is a limit on the upload time. So that it would be the only problem, but both parts for an episode would be on the same day. So if you do only want to see tutorials, go ahead and subscribe to that channel. But mainly it's just so you guys will be able to see everything in use as we do it. Because this really is a series where I'm trying to help you guys work on your YouTubes and your graphic capabilities. Because it really is a hand-in-hand thing. You know, you can't just have really good graphics on your YouTubes. You need to make sure that you represent yourself and you make everything a higher standard and quality. So as you can see, if you do have any questions besides emailing me at my personal email, with all the information is always going to be in the description below. There's also the email for the Tutorial Tuesday, and all the information is on there as well. It's tutorialtuesday@live.com. If you want to contact me through Twitter, it's at Tuesday Tutorial, and then the YouTube itself is Tutorials on Tuesday. So if you go there at any time, you're going to be able to see everything as we get it done, and you'll be able to just see how everything looks together in the later parts of this series. So in the last episode, I asked you all to think about how you wanted your YouTube to be. You know, what you were doing with your YouTube, what your name was going to be, because that's very important when you're considering how you want to do your logo and how you want to represent yourself. So I was going to be uploading tutorials on Tuesdays specifically, just because it's a good day to upload. It kind of goes together with Tutorial Tuesday. You know, it sounds nice. It is overused. Everybody uses it, but it still sounds nice no matter what. So going with that theme, you have to decide how you want to do your logo. And there's really three types of logos you could go with, and that's what we're going to be going over in this episode. We're going to be going over each of the types of logos and how to decide which one you want to go with, because it just depends on how you want to represent yourself. So the first thing you should have done is have your YouTube all created, and it's all tutorial related. You know, you usually nowadays people have Twitter. That's the reason I have a Twitter. Some people use it to really get on there, and it's going to give them an update for your video because they might be away from home and they look at their phone and they can see that you uploaded a video through looking at Twitter, and then they can go back home and they can watch your video later on. And then it's always good to have an email. I personally love Outlook and Windows Live. That's just what I always use. You can use Gmail or Yahoo, whatever you want. It doesn't matter. Most of them work through YouTube, if I remember correctly. So let's go ahead and get started. Go ahead and go to your Tutorial Tuesday saved files and open up the Tutorial Tuesday logo file, or whatever you have it named. And I accidentally saved this in the wrong folder. So let's just go ahead and get rid of that real quick, so it's just out of the way. So now that we have our logo file open, we're going to start going over the different types of logos one at a time and how you can go about designing the logos. So the first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to select the type tool, which is down here. Now there's all kinds of shortcuts. I won't be using them just to make this accessible for anybody, so they don't have to worry about the shortcuts. They can know exactly where they need to go to do what. So what you want to do is you want to go ahead and click, and you're going to go ahead and type out your text, whatever you decided to come up with for your YouTube channel name or your company name, and in this case the series that I will be working on is going to be called Tutorial Tuesday. So I usually hit caps lock and just type it all in caps. So we're just going to type out tutorial. And as you can see, it's incredibly tiny right now. I can't even see it. So you want to go and come over here to your character tools, which is the little A with the line by it. If you don't have that tab in your Photoshop, go ahead and go to Window, and then go down to Character and click on it, and it will open it up, and you can drag it to wherever you like. We're going to go ahead and change the color to just black. Everything we're working with the logo right now is going to be black. And then you want to go ahead and up the size. So go ahead and hit, probably not anything too big. 200 still a little bit too big, so we'll just go ahead and hit 100. So there's our tutorial text. So now what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to want to right click on the tutorial text, go ahead and hit duplicate layer near the top, and just have it as tutorial copy. And then go ahead and just drag that up out of the way, and change the bottom one, or whichever one you want. I'll go ahead and change this one because it says tutorial copy, and just call it all caps Tuesday. So there we go, we got tutorial Tuesday. We drag that back under there, and there is the basics for the first type of logo. Just a basic, super basic text logo. You would obviously work with layer styles and all of that, which we will be getting into later on. We'll go over more tutorials about different layer type styles you can do. We will do some basics in this episode when I create the final logo that I'll be using for the series. A really good font to use is I like using Copperplate Gothic Bold. It looks really nice. Another really popular one to use is going to be Typograph, if I can find it. Typograph Pro, right there. And then you want to change it to extra bold. And as you can see, this is like the temporary, this is actually the temporary little text that you see in my videos that I've been using for the logo. And it looks nice. You know, with this font, it does look really clean and simple, and it's really easy to look at. You can do a lot with it regarding layer styles. But overall, it is just that. It's just really simple. If you don't have any of the fonts that I do show in this series, you can just look them up on Google for download, and you should be able to find them very easily. So, get a drink, and let's continue. The next type of logo that you could possibly use is going to be a abstract type logo, which is very popular on YouTube with design teams and sniping clans. Other than that, not too many people actually use super abstract logos like you see on YouTube, but they can have their uses and still look really nice. So go ahead and click on your type tool and just do, I usually like to start with the letter of the series, and in this case it's going to be a T. And I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing, right click on that T and hit duplicate layer, T copy, because this is Tutorial Tuesday. So for like just a single letter based logo, you could do something just as simple as this, where it's just two T's right beside each other. You know, it's Tutorial Tuesday. You could drag the T just a little bit under here. As you can see, it is really just that simple. If you want to do just something that looks really simple, clean, and nice for your logo, you don't have to do anything really overly crazy or fancy to make something. But we're not going to do that. We're going to go ahead and go all out, and we'll see what we can come up with. So right now, what I'm getting just by looking at this is we could do something like, you go ahead and go to Edit, Free Transform, and then you're going to want to rotate this. Go ahead and hold Shift, and then I'm going to rotate it twice to the left. And then I'm going to select the other T, go to Edit, Free Transform, hold Shift, and then I'm going to do it twice to the right. And as you can see, it gives this nice little tilt to the T's. Drag those a little closer to each other. And as you can see, we get this kind of little overlay thing. This is looking like a really good start for something maybe really kind of abstract looking. So what I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and select both of those layers, right click and duplicate layers, and just hit OK. And then I'm going to go ahead and click on these little eyes and hide those for now. We'll come back to that. That's not exactly the idea I want to work with just yet. So I'm going to go ahead and select this layer and let's drag that T out just a little bit. And even something like that can look really nice for Tutorial Tuesday. I'm thinking I want to go ahead and select the layers again and rotate them one more time using the shift, holding shift and rotating them so that they stay at the same kind of level of rotation. And as you can see, that made it to where it kind of makes this little seamless T/V thing. And that looks kind of nice. But what I want to go ahead and do is just drag this T a little closer now. And what I want to do is go ahead and select one of the T's. Go ahead and hold Control and click on the T layer. And then click on your other T. And you're just going to want to delete that part of this T. And there's a lot of different ways you can do this. For now, we're just going to delete that little section of the other T. So go ahead and hit right click on the other T that you don't have selected, hit rasterize type, and then since you still have this selected, and you select the layer that you just rasterized and hit delete. And what that did is it deleted that little section of the T. So go ahead and click on your little box right here, right click and hit deselect. And then now there's a little gap on that T. So what I'm going to do now is actually, there's a couple different things you could do from this point. I think what I want to do is just take this and just kind of spread it apart a little bit. So go ahead and select your pen tool, which is right down here, right above your type tool, and undo caps lock so that you can use it correctly. Just go ahead and just click around that first part of the T. It doesn't have to be perfect. Right click, hit make selection, and just leave it at 0 pixels. And then now you have your little selection. Click the select tool, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to move this apart just a little bit. And now you want to do the same thing. Select your pen tool and just select the other piece and hit make selection, 0 pixels. Select your select tool, and then just move that down just a little bit like that. And then deselect the layers. So as you can see, that's a really simple way to just make something that looks really nice. You know, it has the two T's for Tutorial Tuesday, but it's not just the two T's overlapping each other. They kind of split. You know, it makes it look a lot nicer. But that isn't something that I want to go with either. It's just an example of something you could possibly go with. So let's go ahead and set that off to the side and go back to that original shape that we were working with. I'm actually going to go ahead and make this a little bit smaller and just keep it over here for reference purposes, but we're not actually going to use it. So let's go ahead and just set all these down here. Excuse me. Take this and go ahead and select both layers, and let's duplicate that again. And then what I'm going to do is, with both of those layers selected, go to Edit and Free Transform. And then holding Shift, I'm going to go ahead and drag this all the way around until it's completely rotated around. So it's just opposite of the design that we had originally. And then let's go ahead and drag that down a little bit. Go ahead and select all the layers and move that into a spot where you can work with it. So as you can see, we are starting to get some kind of design here, and it looks like a little abstract thing. Doesn't mean that you have to work with it. Usually what I do is I just do these kind of designs and I think, what could I continue to do with this? What does this give me? What kind of ideas does this give me? And this actually does give me a really good idea to start in for the next part. So if you're on the Tutorial Tuesday channel, you will see the next part on the next video. Otherwise, let's continue. So, what we're going to go ahead and do is you're going to do some guidelines, because we're going to just start pen tooling a design based off of this, because this is a really good starting place, and gives me an idea that maybe I might want to work with. So go ahead and go to Window. Actually, no, excuse me. Go to View and then click on Rulers if you don't already have it checked, so that you get these little grids on the side. What you're going to do is just drag down a line, and it'll give you a guideline, and that's going to make it a lot easier when we are pen tooling our new design. So go ahead and drag down another line for both of those points, and then I just want to keep this so that the new thing that I'm designing is the same size. And what I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and go down to all these layers, and I'm going to change their opacity by clicking in the opacity box and just typing a different opacity. So I'm going to do 50%. It'll make it really easy to work with any new designs on top of it. And then I'm actually going to go ahead and duplicate one of the layers. Go ahead and drag that up to the top and edit, free transform that, and just put it straight back up because I need that for the size of the top that I'm actually going to end up using. Sorry. So I'm going to go ahead and duplicate that again, and then I'm going to free transform that all the way around and drag that down. And now I can drag a guideline so that I have the width of the T. That way I'm keeping this all fairly the same size. So go ahead and come down here by the little trash can and click the little button there to create a new layer, and then select your pen tool. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and just draw on that little box there, and then you're going to right click it and you're going to hit fill path. Just leave everything as it is, 0, and then fill it with black like we've been working with everything else. And then you're going to right click and hit delete path. To hide all of these, you can either go to View and just take off rulers, or just hit Control H to hide them. That's the only shortcut I'll be saying. Well, we'll see what more. But as you can see, it's just this really thick black line right now. So go ahead and duplicate that layer, and then I'm just going to drag it down here. There's no need for me to pen tool it because it's the same size. And then what I want to do next is I want to do the slantways parts, and I just want them to continue into there. So how I'm going to do this, there's a bunch of different ways you could do this. The simplest way that I can show you guys to make this really simple for beginners is go ahead and just select all of the logo pieces. Edit, free transform, hold shift, and then just keep turning that until the slantways part is flat. And then just drag that to one of the guidelines. Drag that in between these guidelines right there. Click on the select tool and apply the transformation. Just make sure you get this lined up nicely, and then you want it doesn't matter, just as long as it's lined up in there. And they aren't lined up perfectly, the two T's themselves, so I'm just gonna kind of approximate. Look right there, looks about really good. It looks really close with the gaps in between both of them. Let me go ahead and zoom in a little bit more so you can see. Go ahead and click at the top and hit a new layer again, and then you're going to go ahead and select a box again, but select it out here in the black parts so that the piece you create encompasses the black as well, so it's all connected. Go ahead and right click and fill path again, and then delete path. So as you can see, we now have this slantways piece. So we're going to go ahead and duplicate that slantways piece and free transform it, and then you're just going to shift, drag it over until it lines up with the other T, and just apply the transformation. And then as you can see, there is little points sticking out, so just move it over until the points start sticking out. And because of the way I drew it, the points want to keep sticking out no matter what. So what we'll actually do is go ahead and select all of the layers again. Free transform that back to its original position. Just bring it back up to its original position. And then go ahead and select the one with the points that are sticking out. And I'm just going to go to Edit, Transform, and I'm going to rotate it. That didn't exactly work, so don't do that. Just ignore that. The easy way to do this really is just to go ahead and select the box select tool and just drag onto the black like that, and just hit delete when you have that layer selected, and just to clean it up. And then I'll get rid of it. And you don't really need to do that anyway, because you'll pen tool your final logo design anyway. So now that I've been messing with that design, I decided that I actually don't want to do the X like that. What I do want to do is actually go ahead and duplicate that layer that you just were working with and free transform that and do a tier down the middle. And you can worry about cleaning it all up later as well. You don't have to do it as you're going through it. And then I want to go ahead and select both the slant layers and free transform those as well. And then holding Shift and Alt, I want to just drag these in. And what that's doing is it's making both sides get smaller at the same time. You want to make them about half the size they were. And then now I'm going to select each of those individual layers and just drag them like this, so that they're looks kind of like that little design. Go ahead and select both those layers, and let's go ahead and duplicate those. Free transform, holding Shift, rotate them all the way around. And now we have this kind of hourglass type thing for the logo. The only problem is now that we made those a little smaller, the parts on top and bottom look way too big. So I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing with those. Select both of those, free transform, Shift, Alt, click, and just a little bit smaller. And I think that and actually they got pulled in a little bit, but I think that looks better too, having it pulled in like that. And you can just keep working with it. You could just select all of those layers again, duplicate them, free transform, Shift, hold, and just kind of drag it around. And then you get something else just random. It's really that simple to make a abstract logo. There's a bunch of different ways to do it, but that'd be the simplest way to do it. At the end here, what you would want to do is create a new layer again and select your pen tool, and then go ahead and come in here and just select the entire logo. And it does have some flaws that would need to be worked out a little bit. This isn't perfect for finished, but you know, it would work. But you would pen tool the whole thing, and then you would fill your layer, and that way it would be ready to actually use. But we're not going to do that because we're not going to use this. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and just delete that entire one. We'll do one more kind of a combination of the abstract like logo and just a single T type logo. What I do is I'll just select the pen tool, and you just you think about the letters you're using with your YouTube. In this example, I'm using Tutorial Tuesday, so I want to have a T type of design. So I'm going to go ahead and just I just click out a T type shape and fill it in, and then we'll fix it from there. So go ahead and create a new layer, and then I'm going to just do what I do, which is just kind of make something kind of T-shaped that I like the way it looks, and then we'll fix it later on. I'm just going to do half the T at a time. That way I can make sure that I keep these shapes kind of similar. And I actually like the way that looks. Let's go ahead and fill the path in for that and delete it. Go ahead and duplicate that layer. Go to Edit, Transform, and flip horizontally, and just drag that over. And now we have this kind of little thing like this. I may want to just go ahead and have those connected. And then it needs something kind of for the bottom of the T. So I'll just go ahead and create a new layer, and then you just want to keep kind of a T shape. So let's just go ahead and do, well, let's go ahead and actually, let's get rid of all these guidelines first. All you do to get rid of them is just drag them out. Oops. Just drag them off of the page, back into their little rulers. And then we want to put one right here. Select the pen tool again. And then I'm just going to do kind of a, that's a little too small, but let's click about right here. And then we're just going to do kind of a V shape, but we want to kind of keep the slant of that because it'll look a lot better. So you can either just keep clicking like I was doing and just kind of approximate the slant. It doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be perfect. I just approximated the slant. And go ahead and fill the path and delete it. The other way that you could do that is to just drag that down and draw the line directly on it. But for tutorial purposes, this is fine. So go ahead and duplicate that layer and flip that horizontally using transform. And I'm going to go ahead and hide the rulers for now. Put that, I'm going to go ahead and line it up just perfect. Select both those layers and drag them up so that they're almost, kind of has a little gap there. And so as you can see, that's another easy way to do an abstract logo. You could do this with any letter, and it can look nice. You just make sure it has like cool little shapes, and you can kind of tell that it's still a T. There is some more stuff we could do with this logo to make it look better, but for just something that was done really quick, I think it looks fine. Yeah, that doesn't help it though. I'd probably fill this in and add some more slants in here, but overall, I think that looks pretty good for a T. So we'll actually go ahead and make that. Oops. Don't select that. Go ahead and make that a little smaller and just set it off the side for reference. So as you can see, we already got a couple nice little things we could use for a logo. And that covers the first two types of logos, the text logo and the kind of abstract type logos. The final logo that you will be wanting to create is something kind of related to what your channel is. Like let's say that your channel is a gameplay channel and you do sniper gameplays. You might want to include like a sniper in your logo or some kind of gun in your logo. And like you see some art teams, they have like the art brushes in their logo. And that's what I mean. The final type of logo is kind of like it's based off of something similar to what you're going to be doing. And the idea I have for this is really, let's see. I'm thinking since it's a tutorial series and I'm using Photoshop, I'm going to go ahead and make the logo look like a Photoshop logo. So what you want to go ahead and do is just go onto Google or whatever your search engine is. And sadly, this is where this video might be split into 3 parts for those who are watching this on the Tutorial Tuesday channel for now, since it does not have time limit constrictions. So if that is the case, you can see the next part pretty soon, or however I split it up. But back to this, go ahead and search for Adobe product logos. As you can see, I already looked it up. hit images, and these are the old ones. These are the ones we want, the CS6. So as you can see, those look really nice. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is just save these, and I actually already have them saved, and open so I can take a look at them. And you're going to be using it for a reference. Let me go ahead and just, let's not actually save it. I'm just going to go ahead and right click and copy image. Go back into Photoshop and right click, well, no, edit and paste. And here's the thing right now, but it's way too big. So let's go to the free transform and just hold shift and just drag that down so that I'm just going to put it right on top of everything else for now. Now we have a little reference to work with so that we can make our logo based off of that. So the first thing I'm going to do is I want to look for a some kind of font similar to this. So let's just go ahead and use the type tool and just type a big T, and then since my second letter is a T, I'm just going to type a little t. So now we have our two T's. I'm going to free transform that and just make it a little larger so it's easier to look at. And the first thing is most of these companies are going to use like basic fonts, fonts that are available to everybody. But I'm going to go ahead and see if Typograph Pro will work. So if I change it down to semi-bold, you can see that it does do the lowercase t, but it doesn't look how I want it to. I think I want to find a font to where the T kind of maybe curves a little bit. I think that would look a lot better. You could also just draw your own. But the first font I want to try is, you could do something as simple as just Arial. And as you can see, it has that kind of look I wanted. Let's go ahead and maybe do bold. That might work for my purposes. It might work, but it doesn't look exactly like the font that they're using. Another way you could do it is you could always just look up the font they're using. The next font I want to actually try is Helvetica. That's a really nice one. That's pretty commonly used. I have a bunch of different types, but just the basic Helvetica actually looks pretty good to me. But I think I want one that's a little bit bolder, so when you have Helvetica on yours should be fine just the way it is. Mine's kinda, I have to select each different one, and I can't find the specific one that I wanted. Not that, that's way too round. It's a little square. Well, you just have to keep messing around with it until you find a font that you like. This will work for the purpose of the video. So what you want to go ahead and do is select the little rectangle tool, and you're going to hold shift and just drag the rectangle out. And now you have your rectangle that you want to work with. Go ahead and make it whatever color you wanted to use. You can either use one of the colors from the designs or just choose your own. And what I'm going to do is do the color that I use for the series, which is like a bluish color, like that. And then that looks really good. So what I'm going to go and do is just go ahead and right click on this rectangle and hit rasterize layer. So now we don't have to worry about the fact that it's still like acting like a rectangle. Go ahead and duplicate that layer. And then what you want to do is you want to go ahead and change its color to something in the same range but a little darker. So I want to go a little bit darker than that. And you can always change this in a bit. And you're going to go ahead and free transform that and drag it in just until it's in, kind of similar to theirs. Looking at that again, I think I want to go ahead and mess with the blues a little bit. Let's do something like that. It's going to be a little bit closer to the to the Photoshop kind of colors. Something like that looks really good. So there's two ways you can do this next part. You can drag your little text on top of there, and then you can go ahead and free transform that and just make it bigger. And I don't like that font. But I can't find the one I'm looking for exactly. Well, you could really use any font you wanted to for this, like, because it's kind of like making a little button. But that will work for now, right there. So you just want to make it kind of big in the middle of there, and that looks pretty good for now. I'll touch up more on it later, because I think this is the logo that I actually want to go with. So there's two ways you could do this. You could either make this the same color as the outside, so that it kind of matches. Or you could go ahead and just cut it out of the middle square. And for consistency, so that when I mess with the back layer, it changes the front, what I'm going to go ahead and do is just cut it out of the back square. So go ahead and just kind of center this in the square. And then go ahead and control click the little square here on the layer, and it's going to select the outside of the text. Select the inner square and hit delete. And then now you're going to go ahead and deselect that and hide your first layer. And as you can see, we have the basic little thing here. But this looks very plain by itself. So we're going to go ahead and select the outer rectangle, add a stroke to it. I'm going to go ahead and change that down to 2. Change the opacity to 50%. Go ahead and give it a drop shadow, little edge on there. Just move your box so that you can see what you're working with. I like to drag the opacity all the way up and change it to normal first. Make sure that's as black as can be, and then you can play with all your values here. Go ahead and just do it however you want, but you want something that just makes it look kind of like it's standing off the page a little bit. But I don't want anything too intense. So I got it at a place where I kind of like it. Now I'm just going to drag the opacity down, to where it's just barely a shadow. So that's starting to look a little better. I'm actually going to go back into that style, and I want to go ahead and add a gradient overlay to the box. But first thing I need to do is, because since I'm using a color overlay, you can't use a color overlay and a gradient overlay at the same time. So there's two ways you could do this. You could go out here and rasterize your layer style, and that would keep all of these changes so that you can edit the gradient. Or you can do this. I'm going to go ahead and unselect the color overlay, and I accidentally selected pattern. Go ahead and select your gradient overlay. Double click on your gradient, and these are the two colors that are currently being used in your gradient. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is just click on this one and go to my bluish color and just make it a darker part of the bluish color. And then I'm going to go ahead and go to the first color, and I'm going to make it a lighter part of the bluish color. But that's a little bit too intense, so let's go ahead and make that light like that, and then not so dark in comparison. There we go. That way there's just this slight variation so that it looks a little nicer on your eyes. It doesn't look as plain anymore. It looks a lot nicer. And there's a lot more we can do with this. You could add a gradient overlay to this one. And what I will do actually is go ahead and select that. Oops. Okay. Go ahead and deselect your color overlay and do gradient overlay and make your lighter color the color that you selected, and then your darker color, select that color, and then just make it a little bit darker. And now we kind of have the finished thing, and as you can see, it kind of looks like them. They look like they might have a kind of like little inner, do an inner glow on the box. Just do normal, drag the opacity all the way up, and make it black. And then drag the size up, and then the opacity down. And that makes it look like this part is a little bit more in and everything else kind of pops out of it. And I think that looks pretty good for now. So that's going to be the end of this tutorial. I hope you guys understand logos a little bit better. This is just kind of how I do stuff. You'll find your own way for how you create your logos. But if you have any questions, go ahead and use the contact information below, or just post a comment and I will get back to you as soon as possible. And look forward to the next tutorial Tuesday next week. Now that we have our logo created, we can get started on making all the banners and the avatars and the headers and everything. So it's going to be really exciting. So you want to make sure that you do not miss those episodes. So yeah, remember to comment if you have any suggestions, and I will see you guys next Tuesday.